I'm a ghost. I would fit in so well in Twilight. Look at me. Hello humans, my name is Dael Kingsmill. Welcome back. This is part 2 of us making a map and me showing you how I do that. The first part of this, I'll put a link in the wherever, was talking about how to make maps that make sense, just the very basics of geography that influence where rivers will be and where mountains will be and where coastlines will be, that sort of thing. This part 2 is how to make it look pretty. For the real answer to how I make my maps look pretty, I scan in my hand-drawn maps and then I trace them in Photoshop with a Wacom tablet and pen. That's the actual answer, but that's not useful for people who do not have a scanner at home or Photoshop. So I'm just gonna show you kind of like a cheat version of doing what I do that doesn't involve that. It just uses a mouse. Ooh, I do recommend using a mouse for this, not a trackpad. It's just a little bit more precise. Okay, so step 1, you take your map and you gotta get it onto your computer. A bunch of you, tons of you, drew your maps and sent them to me on Twitter, which I was stoked about. So I know you did them. I know you drew them. So hey, step 2, gotta follow through on that. If you do not have easy access to a scanner, have no fear, we live in a digital age. I actually think that it's perfectly acceptable to just take a photo with the camera on your phone. It doesn't have to be perfect, but try to make sure that it is in focus and that it is well lit and evenly lit. If you've got your big shadow hovering over half the page, you're going to encounter problems later down the line. So, take a photo on your phone, make sure that it's evenly lit, get it as in focus as possible, and then email it to yourself on your phone and open it up on your computer. If you have Photoshop, use Photoshop. If you do not have Photoshop and don't want to sell your life to Adobe, then use GIMP. It's free and it's basically Photoshop. Some of the stuff will have different names or be in different menus, but you can Google the equivalents. Okay, so here's my one that I did last time we made a video. It is sideways, so I'm gonna go to image rotation, and in my case, 90 degrees counterclockwise. It's the counterclockwise. Great, wonderful. Next thing you wanna do is crop it. So just cut out anything that is not a part of your map. You can rotate the crop if your picture wasn't like on full right angles or whatever. It's perfect, there you go, boom, crop, done, wonderful, love it. Now the picture I've taken might be a bit bright up one end, which could be interesting later, but for the most part, it's pretty decent. I think it's going to work okay. Now for the sake of my sanity, I'm also going to edit the image size, that's image size, and I'm gonna take mine down to, I don't know, 1500 pixels wide. I just want it small enough that I can kind of deal with it on a human level at 100%, you know what I mean? Great, so that's that. In Photoshop at the very least, you're gonna have to double click where it says background, give it a new name, and hit enter. That way it should become editable, fully editable, that is. Anyone who uses Photoshop is going to really hate the advice I give you in this video, but I mean, hey, I want you to go up to image, I want you to go to adjustments, I want you to go to levels, and we're just gonna bring the white down and the black up. Basically what we're doing is we're making the black lines darker and we're making the white bits brighter, more white. Okay, wonderful. So now we have some clearer lines and we don't have to trace anything in Photoshop. We can just use the lines that we've drawn by hand. Next, open up a new layer on top of your background layer. Go to opacity at the top of the layer settings, and I'm gonna set mine to probably 35 is usually good. On Photoshop at least, it's where the paint bucket is. If you hold on to the paint bucket, you can click instead, you can select instead gradient tool, that's the one that you want. Go up there, you're going to set, you can see I've already done this, you're going to set one of these colors to kind of like a green, but don't make it bright green. I would recommend setting your color somewhere between green and yellow, so it's a little bit like browny green, right? And then the other one, as you can see here, in my case, I've gone with yellow. I'm actually gonna make that a bit less. What am I gonna do? I'm gonna make that a little bit more green, but just still on the yellowy end, if you know what I mean. I just want it to indicate that we're going from more lush green to more dry green. If you have a desert in your setting, then you can make yours full-on sandy yellow on one end. That's a good idea because then that will indicate your desert. If you want it to look more sandy yellow, put it closer to the white or the gray on this. You can even, if you have snowy areas and grassy areas and sandy areas, or just grassy areas and snowy areas, then you can go in here and make one of the colors white. Boom, there you go. Now I'm going to draw a line with it. Oh, okay, so it turns out 36, way too low on the opacity meter. So we're gonna turn that up. We're gonna turn that up to, I don't know, 60? Do we want to try 60? Let's try 60, and let's make the green a bit broader. You can adjust how much is coming out as each color based on how far you extend this line, right? So if I put them really close together, we're going to get a lot of white and a lot of yellow. But if I spread it out a little more, I can kind of control more easily what's going where. Now, next thing, add a new layer. Again, move it below the layer that you're putting all your gradient colors on. I personally will probably, yes, I will. I will turn off the visibility of that top layer that we just did. Great, wonderful. And now I'm going to select a pretty blue that I want to be my ocean. I like it to be a gray blue. You might like yours to be quite a dark blue because, you know, it's the ocean. We're going to head over to the brush on the sort of artsy panel on the side here. Make the size real big. 55 is not big enough. 104, that'll do. And on this fresh layer that is currently empty, you're gonna just color in the water. You're gonna color it all in with blue. Does not have to be neat at this stage. Wonderful. You can, if you would really like to, color your rivers in blue as well. I personally don't. I think the lines, it becomes pretty self-explanatory when they run between the ocean and the lake. And this is a mess right now. We can all see that this is a mess right now. But what you're gonna do, you're gonna turn the opacity down to like 50%. We're gonna zoom in and we're gonna neaten all of that up. See, this is where we get our eraser, and we make the eraser much smaller and much more specific than our paintbrush was. All up in that coastline. Again, does not actually need to be particularly neat. Just much neater. We want it to actually follow the coastline and the islands and the lake edges and what have you, rather than being a haphazard mess. See how we're getting these little bits where I accidentally go too far and you end up with these white patches where the ocean would be? You can fix them if you want, but I kind of like them. They kind of feel just the right amount of messy. It's a kind of messy that matches with the maps that we've drawn, you know what I mean? We've just drawn them in pencil. We haven't lined them particularly precisely with pens or anything like that. So we want a map that looks good more than it looks precise. Plus, if you decide that something is going to be messy on purpose, it kind of frees you up to screw up a little bit. You might even want to go into some of these sandy patches, color the beach in with a similar yellow to the yellow that we did earlier. You'll have to set the brush much smaller again though for that. And on the land side, it really doesn't matter how accurate you are because you will go back and be cleaning that up with the eraser. The negative space will take care of it. This is the most tedious part. It looks good at the end. You want to get these lines for the edges of the coast that we've deliberately gone and we've made them quite dark. You want to make sure that they show up dark where you have painted over them. That's how you kind of bring the lines back to the top. Do remind yourself to lift your finger off the mouse button from time to time, because sometimes you'll get on a real roll of like nailing your lines and you just want to keep it going and you don't want to let go. But if you don't let go, you will screw it up, and then when you hit the undo button, you're gonna have to redo a ton of stuff. All right, now I'm gonna head back on up, free some of these islands. The reason I left the islands for later is because I'm very likely to need to shrink my eraser again, because some of the islands have even tighter nooks and crannies than the coastline. This top island looks like someone giving the middle finger. Ha, that's funny. I like that. Geez, the lake too. Oh, come on. I wish I had some like interesting facts to share with you while doing this. I do not. Boom! Water. Great. So, we've got our water, we've got our land stuff. You know when I told you to put the water underneath the land layer, the land color? I lied. I totally lied to you. You want it to be on top of that. You want to make your land visible, and then you want to increase the opacity of your water so that it's kind of overpowering any green or yellow or what have you from the land layer. You can make the opacity quite high. Now, if you had inked your hand-drawn map with a pen, especially a felt tip pen, then it would be showing up even clearer than this. So I'm gonna go create a new layer on top of everything and just come up with some names real quick. These are just placeholders, not especially important. There should be a text tool in the program that you're using. Size 20, that'll work. Great. Fishtown is going to be named Faisal. It's terrible, I hate it, but look, it's there now. Lock it in by clicking a different thing. Now pick up the text tool again. Crossing Town is gonna be named probably something about how it's safe to cross there, so let's call it Safety's Crossing. Coming up with names is so hard. This isn't a video about naming things good. Finally, we're going to change the font for some things. Let's name this dry arid area down here. We're going to make it size 30, so it's deliberately bigger. We're going to pick a different font that's a little bit fancier, I guess, but the big thing that it needs to be is it needs to be the words kind of are more spaced out. Oh, 30 is not going to be big enough. We need like 40 minimum. Let's call this space. Oh my gosh, why is naming things so difficult? The Challenger Wastes. There we go. I made it worthwhile. The ocean shall be called something twee. I don't know. The Sapphire Sea. Free transform. I'm just gonna do this first. I'm gonna make it a little bit bigger. Edit. Free transform. Do this and just put it over here a little bit. Oh, I almost forgot. I've made a mini tutorial that I'm gonna put up on screen now that is for creating a compass. Because I think that's a thing that really properly tricks people into thinking, ooh, you're really good at drawing maps. And this compass looks great and it is easy to draw. All you need is a ruler. Okay, my laptop's about to die. I gotta finish this quick. Follow my instructions. They are in the pictures. And then put it over top. You'll see it in my final version of the image. Okay, I have to go. Laptop's dying. Laptop's dying. Email this to your grandma. I hope you draw lots of maps and send them to me on Twitter. Goodbye.